You've heard about spiders on this show before. You've even heard about crabs. But today on Insects for Fun, we're combining the two topics into one to talk about the crustaceans with the longest legs. Japanese spider crabs belong to a genus called Macrocara, which comes from the Greek words for long and hand, a fitting description for their massive claws. Meanwhile, the species name Kaempferi honors the German naturalist Engelbert Kaempfer, who was among the first Europeans to document Japan's natural wonders in the 17th century. These crabs are often called takaashigani in Japanese, which literally means tall-legged crab. And trust me, those legs are tall, with these crabs being one of the largest crabs on Earth. So where does the spider part of their name come from? It literally comes down to the way these crabs look, which honestly does resemble that of a spider, mainly in its long legs that branch off their body in an arachnid-like fashion. Unlike arachnids, these crabs do not have two body segments, and just like regular crabs, they have stalked eyes in a single body known as a carapace. Their leg span can reach up to 12 feet, and their bodies alone can grow up to 16 inches across. But despite their intimidating size, they're surprisingly lightweight, maxing out at around 40 pounds. These crabs also have orange bodies speckled with white spots, which makes them stand out even more. Fun fact, their large claws are not just for show. These are powerful tools they use for defense and scavenging food. And here's something even cooler. They're masters of camouflage. Japanese spider crabs often decorate their shells with sponges, seaweed, and other marine debris to blend into their surrounding. These crabs are true crabs, unlike hermit crabs, which we learned about previously. And these spider crabs are found on the sea floors around Japan, specifically on the southern coast of the main island from Tokyo down to Kagoshima, at the southern tip of Kyushu, which is the southernmost island of Japan's main three. Japanese spider crabs prefer deeper parts of the ocean, living at depths of 150 to 300 meters, though they've been spotted as deep as 600 before. Their habitat ranges from rocky crevices to sandy floors, and interestingly, they migrate to shallower waters during the breeding season, which is the best time for researchers to study them. And speaking of studying, let's take a look at what kind of information we now have on their life cycles. Their breeding season occurs during the early spring, typically between January and March. During this time, males use their large claws to compete for mates, and the successful males will grasp the females during mating. It should be noted that the temperament for these is actually quite mild though, and their pinches aren't all that painful despite the size of their arms. Afterward, females carry their fertilized eggs on their abdomens, where they are protected by a specialized flap called the brood pouch. A single female can carry up to 1.5 million tiny eggs at a time, ensuring the species can continue despite high larval mortality. The eggs are incubated for about 10 weeks before hatching into planktonic larvae. Once hatched, these very, very tiny larvae drift in the water column, feeding and growing for about 50 days. After a series of molts, they develop into juvenile crabs and eventually settle on the sea floor, where they can begin their long journey towards adulthood. Maturing into an adult is certainly an accomplishment for these animals, and similar to lobsters, it takes quite a long time. Up to 100 years if they're lucky enough to avoid predators, fishing nets, and environmental hazards. And while we're on the topic, Japanese spider crabs don't have many natural predators as adults. Their size is a big deterrent, but smaller crabs and larvae are a favorite snack for fish and other marine creatures. Now let's shift gears and talk about cultural significance and folklore. You see, Japanese spider crabs hold a special place in Japan's cultural imagination, particularly in folklore, where they are often tied to spirits of the sea. One popular legend claims that Japanese spider crabs embody the spirits of samurai warriors who fell in battle. Their long legs are said to resemble the armor-clad limbs of fallen warriors, and their slow movements across the ocean floor mirror the eternal rest of these ancient souls. In some stories, they are depicted as protectors of the sea, guardians of the ocean depths who ward off evil spirits, and bring balance to the underwater world. Another tale speaks of fishermen who encounter these crabs as omens. Their appearance could signal good fortune for a bountiful catch, or if angered, misfortune in storms. Their haunting skeletal appearance has also inspired myths about ghostly creatures rising from the depths, adding a mysterious allure to their reputation. On a behavioral level, Japanese spider crabs' habit of adorning their shells with seaweed and sponges has led to comparisons with trickster spirits, creatures who cleverly disguise themselves to survive or deceive enemies. Now, in terms of cuisine, they're considered a delicacy in certain parts of Japan, particularly along coastal regions where seafood culture thrives. Their meat is prized for its sweet and delicate flavor, often prepared in traditional dishes like hot pot, or simply steamed to let the natural taste shine. However, harvesting these crabs is no easy task due to their deep sea habitat and enormous size. And unfortunately, their popularity has contributed to overfishing, which pushed these gentle giants closer to the brink. To combat this, Japan has implemented strict conservation measures. Local fishing regulations now enforce closed seasons during breeding times to allow the population to replenish. Additionally, only crabs above a certain size are permitted for capture, ensuring juveniles can grow and reproduce. These efforts are also supported by education campaigns aimed at raising awareness about the importance of sustainable fishing practices. Despite these measures, illegal harvesting remains a concern, though, highlighting the ongoing need for vigilance and global cooperation to protect these incredible creatures. And that is going to wrap up today's episode on insects for fun. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and please go make sure to rate the podcast on whatever platform you listen. If you'd like to support the show further, you can visit the Patreon, where you can get ad-free episodes, monthly bonus episodes, vlogs, and more. And thank you, as always, for listening.